So welcome back, everybody. This is John with SwingFit. In today's video, we are doing another head-to-head comparison where we're going to take a look at the Mizuno 921 forged iron versus that of the brand new Cobra Tour MIM iron. We actually did a mini fit with one of our staff members, so if you was ever curious and wanted to know how these heads actually stacked up and compared against one another, then today's a great day. So let's jump in and find out exactly what we found out. So before we actually dive deep into the data, I first off want to welcome you to our channel. So if you're new or just passing through, consider hitting that subscribe button because I surely wouldn't want you to miss out on any of the content that we are releasing each and every single week, where not only do we share some of our customers' lessons learned, help you better understand what we're doing to help them take their game to another level, but we're also going to give you some tips and some practical guidance around, how you can get the most out of your current clubs or even help you prepare to buy your next set of clubs. So without further ado, let's see how these two irons actually stacked up against each other. And the two irons we're taking a look at today are these beauties right here, the Mizuno 921 Forged and the Cobra Tour MIM iron. And when you look at the pictures side by side, you will already start to see some similarities. I mean, both manufacturers is really steering these irons for the better player category, but really, truth be told, Andrew, who's one of our staff members, hit both of these today. He's a mid-handicapper, and he didn't have a problem whatsoever hitting these irons once we got him dialed into the right shaft. And there's a pretty good chance that he's going to actually game one of these irons this year because he just fell in love with not only how it felt, but also just how great it performed for him. Let's kind of peel back the layers a little bit more on these two irons and talk about some of the differences. Really, one of the big differences between these two is one is a forged product and the other one is not. Right? So Mizuno's definitely stayed with the true forging process, so it's a grain flow forged head, but what they've done differently this year is they actually infused the chromoly material that they used in their Hot Metal Pro series, right? So now, not only is Mizuno claiming that this is the softest forged iron that they've ever made, but they're also claiming that it's the hottest and most forgiving forged iron, and heck, when you see some of the numbers, you might be surprised at just how forgiving this forged head is. Now, when we take a look at the Tour MIM iron, this one definitely gets an A+ for look. So it looks the part. The question is, can it play the part? And Cobra's making a bold claim that it can because of the process that they're using that nobody else in the industry is using today. In fact, Cobra created this process a little over a year ago when they released their MIM wedge. It was the best-selling wedge in Cobra's history. Everybody ran and raved about how soft the wedge felt and how durable the wedge was. Well, they're now using the same metal-injected molding process in this new Tour iron. And what Cobra's claiming is not only are you going to get an iron head that has the same wearability and durability of the previous irons, but you're also now going to gain this buttery soft feel. And when you do hit them side by side, I swear this thing feels like a forged head. You can't tell the difference. But there is a little trade-off when you go with this head, right? Just because it's a metal-injected molded head, right? It's still a cast head, not a forged head. We're still going to have some limitations on how much we can bend it up or down. So we're still going to be limited to that traditional 2 up, 2 down, and in a skilled builder's hands, maybe 3 up, 3 down. But if you need something more than that, say +4, -4, then definitely a forged product will give you a little more flexibility there. But enough chit chat. Let's kind of dive in and see how these irons performed with Andrew today. So first up was the Cobra Tour MIM iron with a Dynamic-O 105 stiff shafts. Now, right out the gate, I knew that we wasn't going to stay in this shaft very long. It's a little too soft for Andrew's club speed. Once again, Andrew's a mid-handicap. He's actually been playing golf for just about 3 years now. And, you know, he shoots average right around, you know, mid to high 80s. But you can definitely tell in the club speed department that he's not lacking any speed there. I mean, he's a hip spinner, but definitely, you know, he's not lacking in the speed department, and that stiff flex just is not going to be a good fit for him because we're definitely having some issues with that little bit of that right side leak. So we're going to step him out of that shaft really, really quickly here. But let's take a look at his numbers here. From a delivery perspective, really dang on consistent here. AOA good, club path, you know, not hateful, and face to path, also pretty dang on good. I mean, if I was to nitpick of the two, face to path is probably the biggest outlier. Club path, I mean, really he just had one that was just a little bit in to out. And that could just be from the timing piece, right? So all in all, not too bad of a start. I mean, Apex, you know, these were his best shots. He hit about 10 to 12 shots. We kept the 5 best ones, you know, checking in about 108, 107, 108, 113, and last one was 88. Averaging out to about 163 carry. Descent angle, you know, pretty dang on good, 48.4. But I do know that, I mean, for his input versus his output, 89 versus about 115, you know, probably leaving something in the tank there. So we see if we can try to help him get a little bit more efficient there. So next up, let's try the Cobra Tour iron again, but this time we're going to try the Nippon 105, and we're going to step him up in flex. We're going to actually step him up to the extra stiff shaft and see how he does with that one. So let's see. So now let's take a look at Andrew's second set, and as you see from the results, it was night and day difference, and all we did was make a shaft change, and I actually did bend the line go up a degree just because the toe was just down. Also wanted to kind of give him a little protection against that right side, but the number one reason why I wanted to go stiffer flex is, one, put something in there to match up with his input. 2, something to kind of help him get that head out of trail deflection, get that face to square up, and take the right side completely out of the question, right? So let's take a look. Was we able to do that? When we're looking at his numbers, first things first, let's look at the offline. So 1, 2, 3, 3 to the right. Worst one was 61. So here he was definitely missing left and right equally. In the new one, right, Nippon 105, extra stiff, he had 1 shot to the right, 20 feet to the right, right? So guys, that's just evidence that the shaft does matter. Once again, stiffer flex, head gets out of trail deflection, closes up a little bit, and really we took the right side out of the play. The other reason why we want to go a little stiffer flex is potentially give him some more output, right? Was we able to do that? So 114.6 versus 118.6, that's 4 more mile an hour. Why is that important? For every mile an hour you lose, you potentially are losing 2 to 3 yards of distance. And if you don't believe me, let's take a look. Carry, 163 previous, new carry, 171. So 8 yards, 4 mile an hour gain, you do the math, right? It's that simple. So let's take a look at something else. Let's look at his apex and his landing angle, right? 48 versus 48, 105 versus 107. Yeah, really, really good. I mean, I like it. And let's look at spin. So he actually came down in spin a little bit, right? Averaging out about 5,400. Now, here's a little nugget for you is don't get wrapped around the axle on spin. I mean, you might have read, you know, an article or, you know, heard somebody say that, you know, average 7-iron spin should be like mid-6s, getting closer to 7. But literally, you know, I would rather you focus on the descent angle and your peak and trying to get those to be really, really tight. So from line to line, I don't want to see a lot of fluctuation. I want to see it to be really, really tight like what we're seeing here. Really, really good. I mean, heck, when we look at his club speed, right, did it change, right? 88.8 versus 89.3. It didn't, right? So, you know, for those out there that might be speculating, you know, we got more output because maybe it was swinging it faster with the stiffer shaft, you know, we didn't really see that. 0.3, not enough to really increase the ball speed like we've seen. Reason he got hotter ball speed, center face. That was it. I mean, when you go back over here, you take a look at it, just look how it's like 1 toe, 1 heel, 10 toe, 5, 6. Yeah, definitely a lot better, okay? So that's where the output came from, was just improving timing to find the center of face. And once again, the shaft matters. And honestly, if the fit ended here, I mean, Andrew can game these things and he would be completely happy with the net result. I mean, this was really dang on good. Almost, it's to the point where we're going to start looking at the forge now. So we're going to pop him into the forge, and we're going to start with the Nippon 105X and see how he does with that. Next up is the Mizuno 921 forge, an exact same shaft, the Nippon 105 extra stiff shaft. I always like to kind of stay in the same shaft so this way we reduce those variables. So definitely, you know what, we want to kind of see how he does with this one. And I can tell you by going in and deleting some of the outliers, this is not the right shaft. And let just this be a testament, guys, is that how a shaft in one head could potentially just be the best thing can just be the worst shaft in another head. And really the explanation is just the CG characteristics of the shaft is always trying to line up with the CG characteristics of the head. And even though those heads look very similar in shape and size, it's just enough to the point where that shaft just does not work with this one. So let's take a look at the numbers here real quick. And actually, while I'm in here, let's just do the compare tab so that way we can actually just compare the last two. It might just give a better visual here, okay? So yeah, let's take a look. So definitely he had some hotter jumpers in there, right? Literally he had a couple in there that was like 180, but you can see his tendency is now to miss completely to the left. I mean, we're still able to keep the right side out, but apex came down and descent angle came down as well. Look at spin. Spin came down. Remember how I told you, and like, I don't really care about spin as long as we can protect apex and descent angle, and we wasn't able to do that. So let's go back to the table. All right, so let's look. Right, so yeah, look at descent angle, 45, right? Apex now 90. I mean, he had 93, 85, 90. So this one, an explanation there is because he's finding left, he's closing the face too much with this shaft. It wasn't a good fit. I mean, but here is what I really do like. Look at this. I mean, he actually got into the 120s with his 7-iron. I mean, almost 122. When I see this from a fitting perspective, I know I'm loving the head, right? I just got to spend a little bit more time to find the right dance partner. So literally, I don't need to, dive deeper into this. Let's go to take 2. All right, let's try a different shaft. So next up is the Forge 921 with a wild card shaft, the AMT whites. Now, I will tell you, straight up textbook, I mean, this shouldn't be a good fit for Andrew. And when we look at the numbers, you'll see that it's not a good fit. And the reason we chose this shaft, even though it's a lower launching shaft than that of the Nippon 105, is Andrew's familiar with this shaft. He played these shafts before, so we thought, why not? Let's go ahead and pop him in there and see if it's just the timing he needs. But let's take a look. And generally speaking, this is a part of the fit. When you start seeing numbers go the other direction, right? We always want it to progress and get better. But the moment we see it go south, like literally we have to step in and try to get the train back on the tracks, okay? So we see this, we go from 118 average ball speed to 115. So ball speed dropped. I mean, best was 117 versus 121. Well, let's call it 122. So like 5 mile an hour, drop off. I mean, literally when I see that, I know it's like, all right, dude, let's go to something else. Still like the head, just not the right shaft. And then once again, that translated into only 166 carry. I mean, his best was 174, 171, but his worst was 162, 163. So literally, I mean, that reflected to an average of 166. Not good at all. Descent angle, a little bit better. Spin was a little bit better. But once again, I don't put a lot of stock in spin. I'd really rather focus more on apex and apex, started to get, even worse. So once again, I'm not going to even look at it as delivery numbers here. I just know that this wasn't the right shaft. So we got take 3 now. Let's see if we can find the shaft yet. So now let's take a look at these last series of shots, because as you've seen, Andrew hit some tightrope walkers. I mean, heck, I'll even go as far as to say that this is the best he's been to that center line all night. And he even made the statement that he even hit some toe strikes and some heel strikes, but yet he was still able to find the center line and really get the ball to still to go. He just felt that for whatever reason, this shaft allowed him to still hit those distances that he was trying to chase. And the explanation behind that is that this shaft, unlike everything else, the Rifle 6.5, I mean, it's weighing in at about 15 to 18 grams heavier than everything else tonight. And all that means is there's more mass distributed from the butt end of the shaft to the tip end, and it's just going to make it a little stiffer throughout the entire profile, especially when we get down to the tip section, because down at that tip section, there's a little bit extra mass down there. It's really going to give him the stability he needs to keep that head from gearing open on those off-center strikes. So let's take a look at the numbers just to see how this thing actually finally performed. So ending ball speed was 115.4, best was 119. We wasn't, able to get back to 120, 121 as we've seen in the first series, but it was better than the second series. And honestly, at the end of the day, at the tail end of a session, I know fatigue is going to creep in, and his club speed didn't really drop off, but, fatigue can actually impact you more than just speed alone. It can just impact your timing, impact your ability to find center of face. So there's several factors that go in, but honestly, when I'm looking at it, I want to see how many gears a club has, and if a club can perform this well at the tail end of a session, I know it will perform just as well when you're fresh. All right, so let's continue looking at the numbers here. 20 degrees of launch, great, right? It's the best we've seen in the series. 5100 spin, not bad, not hateful. Descent angle, really, really happy. It's one of the things we were struggling with, but we finally got it in the area and the range we like. 48, 47, 46, 49, 53, averaging 47. Apex, really like this as well, okay? General rule of thumb is I always like the apex to kind of coincide with an individual's club head speed. So at Andrew's club head speed of 88, I want that to be right around, plus, 10 to 20, okay? So that puts us right around that ballpark of being right there, 10 to 15. So really, really good. And then his carry total was 167, so not bad at all. But let's take a look at the compare tab, because when you look at these two here, you might be blown away about the final recommendation, because this is the part of the fit where we're going to compare the 921 forged rifle 6.5 versus the Cobra Tour MIM with a Nippon 105X. Definitely the best of the best, comparing apples to apples here, okay? So let's take a look at the compare tab and really see which one's going to win out here, okay? So when we look at the two graphs, right, top left, Cobra, higher apex, steeper landing angle. So 2 bonus points there. Ball speed, 118 versus 115, another bonus point. Cobra, launch angle, let's call it a wash. So nobody gets a point. Backspin, 5400 versus 5100, bonus point Cobra. So we're like 4-0, right? Carry, 171 versus 168. All right, so, if you've been keeping track, all right, so that means Cobra just washed, the 921 Forge off the board. Really, it was like blanked it, 5-0. But guess what? I'm not recommending the Cobra Tour. And I'm not making the recommendation for 2 very important reasons, right? The first one is accuracy, right? The name of the game is not only to help you hit it a little bit farther, but to help you be deadly accurate. Hit those pins, okay? And there's no disputing that with the rifle and the 921, it's the closest he's been in center line. No more missing left, no more missing right. And when he does miss right, it's just a little off to the right. But literally, you know, that occasional miss will come in even for the best in the world. But the name of the game is just accuracy and precision. So I'm going to go with this. I'm not going to make the recommendation just because of 3 yards. 3 yards is great, but not when I'm talking about being able to just pin hunt all day long. So literally, I'm going to make the recommendation 921. And here is the other reason why I'm going to make the recommendation is Andrew said he felt the most comfortable. You know, so anytime you can actually provide data to back up what a customer feels, then really it becomes a no-brainer. So guys, I truly hope you found value in this information we share with you today, and pretty much, you know, help you understand a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes and what is some of the thought processes a fitter will take in order to help their customers just play a little better golf. And sometimes it doesn't always end up to what you may think. And literally it just takes a great fitter in order to walk you through all of the analytics so that way you can make the best decision. So if you have any questions at all, do me a favor. Leave them in the comments and the remarks below. And don't forget to take a look at one of these videos off here to the side, especially this one to the top left, because we still have an opportunity to give you a brand new Mizuno ES21 wedge, you know, so watch that video up here at the top left for all the details. So guys, thanks again for watching and stay tuned for another video.